Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a massive geopolitical shift that's sending shockwaves through Europe and Russia alike. Ukraine, together with key European nations, has taken unprecedented steps that are now breaking Russia's influence across the continent. What began as a desperate defense against invasion has turned into one of the most significant realignments of power in modern history. Over the past few years, Europe has undergone a quiet but decisive transformation. At the center of it all is Ukraine, a country that refused to fall under pressure and instead rose to become a symbol of resistance and renewal. The war that was meant to crush Ukraine has instead united Europe in ways no one expected. Nations that were once divided by political interests and energy dependencies are now moving together with a shared purpose: to end Russia's leverage over Europe once and for all. When Russia first launched its full-scale invasion, many doubted Ukraine's ability to survive. But Ukraine's military, supported by European intelligence, technology, and weaponry, turned the tide. What followed was not only a military pushback, but also an economic and diplomatic counteroffensive that is now reshaping Europe's future. From the Baltic states to the Balkans, countries are cutting ties with Russian energy, banning trade with Moscow, and investing heavily in new defense cooperation led by the European Union and NATO. Energy was once Russia's greatest weapon against Europe. Moscow supplied nearly half of the continent's natural gas, making many countries dependent on the Kremlin's pipelines. But after years of blackmail, price manipulation, and sudden cutoffs, Europe has finally had enough. Germany, Poland, and even Hungary, once close to Moscow, are turning to renewable energy, liquefied natural gas from the United States, and new routes from Norway and Azerbaijan. The energy weapon that Russia used for decades has lost its power, and Europe's economic independence is now breaking the backbone of Russian influence. At the same time, Ukraine's partnership with Europe has evolved beyond military support. The European Union is fast tracking Ukraine's membership process, pouring billions into reconstruction and infrastructure projects. European companies are investing in Ukrainian agriculture, technology, and defense manufacturing. What was once seen as a burden is now viewed as Europe's greatest strategic opportunity, a partnership that strengthens both sides while isolating Russia economically and politically. Militarily, Ukraine has become the testing ground for Europe's next-generation warfare. From drone innovation to electronic warfare, Ukrainian forces with European support have developed tactics that have stunned Russian commanders. The once feared Russian army has been exposed as outdated and overstretched. Ukraine's counteroffensives have pushed back Russian positions, destroyed key supply lines, and struck deep into occupied territories. Each successful operation not only boosts Ukraine's morale, but also weakens Moscow's global image as a military superpower. Across Europe, public opinion has also shifted dramatically. Countries that were once hesitant to confront Russia are now leading the charge. Finland and Sweden, long known for their neutrality, joined NATO, transforming the security landscape of Northern Europe. Eastern European nations like Poland, Lithuania, and Estonia have become the backbone of Europe's defense, sending weapons, training troops, and demanding stronger sanctions against Moscow. The unity that Russia never expected to see is now one of its greatest defeats. Economically, the sanctions imposed by Europe have done serious damage to Russia's industries. Billions of dollars in frozen assets, restrictions on high-tech imports, and the withdrawal of major Western companies have crippled Moscow's economy. Russia has tried to pivot toward China and India, but the trade imbalance and technology gap are widening. The ruble continues to weaken, and inflation is eroding the savings of ordinary Russians. What was meant to be a short, victorious campaign for the Kremlin has turned into an exhausting drain on its finances and global credibility. Meanwhile, Europe has grown stronger. The war has accelerated innovation in defense, energy, and technology. The European Defense Fund and NATO's new initiatives are creating jobs, boosting economies, and ensuring that Europe can protect itself without depending on outside powers. The same conflict that once threatened Europe's stability is now driving its transformation into a more unified, resilient, and independent bloc. Ukraine's role in this transformation cannot be overstated. Its courage has forced Europe to confront decades of complacency. No longer can European nations afford to ignore the threat posed by authoritarian aggression. The partnership between Ukraine and Europe is no longer about aid, it's about mutual survival and shared values. Together, they are building a new security architecture that limits Moscow's reach and defends democratic freedoms across the continent. But this story isn't just about politics or military strategy. It's also about identity. For decades, Europe struggled with the question of whether it could truly act as one. Russia's invasion of Ukraine answered that question. The outpouring of support from millions of European citizens donating money, welcoming refugees, and raising their voices proved that European unity is more than an ideal. It's a reality forged in crisis. As Ukraine and Europe move forward together, Russia finds itself increasingly isolated. Its traditional allies are cautious, its economy is shrinking, and its people are growing weary of a war with no clear end. The propaganda that once fueled nationalism is losing its grip as the costs of war become impossible to hide. Inside Russia, discontent is spreading not only among ordinary citizens, but also within the political elite. Cracks are forming, and Europe's strategy of pressure and persistence is starting to show results. Ukraine's recovery is another part of this remarkable story. Despite the destruction, cities like Kiev, Kharkiv, and Odessa are rebuilding with international support. European engineers, architects, and investors are helping to reconstruct power grids, schools, and hospitals. The dream of a free, modern Ukraine integrated into Europe is becoming reality, piece by piece. Every reconstruction project sends a clear message to Moscow. Ukraine will not only survive but thrive. Today, when we look at the map of Europe, the balance of power is shifting. Russia's influence is shrinking, while Ukraine's standing is rising. The partnership between Kiev and European capitals is rewriting the story of post-war Europe. It's not just about defending borders, it's about defending the future. A future built on independence, unity, and shared strength rather than fear and coercion. So, as Ukraine and Europe continue to stand together, one thing has become clear. Russia's era of dominance in Europe is ending. What we're witnessing is not just a geopolitical change, but the birth of a new Europe, one that refuses to bow to aggression and stands firm in its belief in freedom and sovereignty. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to like the video, share it with others who follow global affairs, and subscribe for more in-depth updates on how Ukraine and Europe are reshaping the world order. Stay tuned because the story of how Ukraine and Europe break Russia is still unfolding, and the next chapters promise to be even more extraordinary.